Hey, welcome back. I was on a video call with my grandmother last week, back in Dhaka. She was telling me the same story about her childhood village for the third time that month. And I just listened and smiled. It's a beautiful story, but it got me thinking, as these conversations do, about memory, about care, about what happens when the mind begins to fade and the body needs help, and about what that journey looks like here in America. It's a journey that more and more of our families are facing. But somewhere along the way, that journey has been turned into a financial instrument. I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this is the Unraveling thread. Today, we're pulling on a thread that leads us into one of the most vulnerable spaces in our society, dementia care. And we're asking a difficult question. What happens when the business of caring for our elderly at their most fragile becomes less about care and more about business? Specifically, the business of private equity. So, let's start with the landscape. Over 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's or another dementia. That number is projected to nearly double by 2050. It's a slow, demanding, and heartbreaking condition that requires a special kind of care, patient, compassionate, and deeply human. For decades, this care happened in a patchwork of nonprofit nursing homes, family-run facilities, and some larger chains. But in the last 15 years, a new player has moved in aggressively: private equity firms. Now, to understand this, we need to understand the private equity playbook. It's not complicated. They use investor money to buy companies, often with a lot of borrowed debt. They aim to make those companies more profitable in a short time frame, usually 3 to 7 years, and then sell them for a big return. The mantra is efficiency, cost-cutting, and revenue maximization. This model has swept through retail, through hospitals, through your favorite software company. But what happens when you apply this formula to dementia care? You get a fundamental clash of values. The timeline of humane care does not fit neatly into the timeline of a quarterly earnings report. The first thing that often happens after a private equity takeover is what's called loading the company with debt. The firm buys a chain of assisted living facilities or memory care units, but it has the company itself take out the loan to pay for the purchase. So now, the care homes are on the hook for millions in debt repayments from day one. This isn't just a detail, it's the core mechanic. That debt service becomes a constant pressure, a financial bleed that has to be staunched. And where do you find that money? You find it in the operations, in the staffing, in the supplies. And that brings us to the most critical point: the people. Dementia care is intensely personal. It requires consistency, familiar faces, and enough staff to manage needs that are both medical and profoundly emotional. But staff is the single biggest cost in any care facility. So, the pressure to cut begins. Nurses and aides are let go. Remaining staff are stretched thinner. Training, especially the specialized, compassionate training needed to handle dementia behaviors, gets slashed. Turnover skyrockets. One study found that private equity ownership was associated with a significant drop in nursing staff hours per resident. You end up with a revolving door of exhausted, underpaid, and often undertrained caregivers. For a person with dementia, who relies on routine and recognition, this instability isn't just poor service, it's actively harmful. It accelerates confusion, anxiety, and isolation. But cutting costs is only one side of the profit equation. The other side is maximizing revenue. And here, the tactics become particularly jarring. Many of these facilities market themselves as premium, resort-like communities. They lure families in with beautiful brochures showing sunny courtyards and happy residents. The base fee is high, but then come the add-ons. The level of care, packages that seem to inevitably creep upward. The fees for medication management, for incontinence supplies, for assistance with bathing. Some facilities have been found to aggressively push hospice care, even when it might not be fully appropriate, because it brings in a reliable stream of Medicare payments. They monetize every step of the decline. The business model isn't built on healing. That's impossible here. It's built on efficiently managing the end of life, extracting as much value as possible from the process. And who bears the brunt of this? The residents, of course, but also their families. Imagine making the agonizing decision to move a parent into a memory care facility. You're paying a small fortune, often draining a lifetime of savings. You're consumed with guilt and worry. And then you see your mother losing weight because no one has the time to patiently help her eat. You find her in soiled sheets because the call bell went unanswered. You see her frightened by a new aide every other week. The emotional toll is compounded by a financial one that feels both exploitative and inescapable. This is where my perspective as an engineer and an entrepreneur really hits a wall. I believe in systems. I believe in efficiency. But some systems should not be optimized for profit. Some human experiences exist outside the spreadsheet. The calculus of private equity, debt, leverage, exit strategies is a cold logic to apply to the warmth required in a room where someone is forgetting their own children's names. There's a societal contract we're breaking here. In many cultures, like the one I come from, caring for the elderly is a sacred, familial duty. We've outsourced that duty in America, and that's a complex reality of modern life. But by allowing it to be financialized by actors seeking maximum extraction, we've corrupted the contract. We've agreed to outsource the duty, but not the compassion. So where does this leave us? It leaves us with a need for radical transparency and a reevaluation of what we value. As a society, we need to demand better data on ownership. Families should know if the facility they're considering is owned by a private equity fund whose legal duty is to its investors, not to their parent. We need to strengthen staffing regulations and enforce them. But more than that, we need a cultural shift. We need to see elder care, and especially dementia care, as a public good, as infrastructure for a society that honors its people from beginning to end. It should not be a gold rush for the financially savvy. Pulling on this thread unravels a simple, uncomfortable truth. How a society treats its most vulnerable members is the ultimate measure of its integrity. The dementia care complex isn't just about buildings and balance sheets. It's about the stories that are being forgotten and the hands that are meant to hold them. We have to decide if the last chapter of a person's life is a cost center to be managed or a story to be honored, with grace and with unwavering humanity. Thank you for listening. If this conversation resonated with you, please share this episode with someone who might find it important. For more deep dives into the systems that shape our lives, subscribe to the Unraveling thread wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this show is produced by Light Knot Studios. You can find more of our work and support independent investigative storytelling at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, take care.